Hi, and welcome to the Soul and Survival podcast with Grant and Louise Bentley. We have run the Victorian College of Classical Homeopathy since 1995. We are both qualified practicing homeopaths, and Grant is also a naturopath. Together, we discovered a link between energy and facial structure based on traditional ideas from homeopathy that have roots going back 200 years. This project is called Homeopathic Facial Analysis, or HFA for short, and has been the cornerstone of clinical diagnosis and training courses since 1999. Between us, we have written and produced 7 HFA books, including Soul and Survival. Soul and Survival is the philosophy of energy influencing matter and how this energy forms individual facial structure, our unconscious drives and fears, our life patterns, and universal time cycles.
Welcome everybody to this next Soul and Survival episode, and welcome Louise on what is yet another very hot day.
Hi Grant, how are you?
I'm good, apart from melting, how are you?
Oh yeah, pretty warm. We left off last time with the topic we were leading into, and I wanted to reconnect with it was, and it's clinical, and I know that some of our listeners really like some of the clinical information because it is the challenge when you're a practitioner to do it clinically. Like you might do it with friends and family, and that's fantastic, a great start, and you always practice on them. But once you get into clinic with strangers and you're really needing to keep your focus to really get the information you want from each consultation, it's all about symptoms. And I think we were having this conversation saying that we keep getting diagnoses, or tests or numbers, and that's fine. That's somebody else's system that tells the patient what to call their problem. And I'm probably wandering a bit, but it does remind me of a story that was in one of Kent's books. For those who don't know, Kent was, the second most famous homeopath in homeopathic history, and he lived till, I think he was born in about 1849. I'm not bad with numbers. You might want to test this. 1849 to about 1916, if I remember rightly, something like that. But he did some lectures, and his students put it into books. So we studied all of that. And one of the stories was that he said this woman came into the clinic and said, these are all the problems I have, doctor, and she, listed the different things she was suffering with, and turned to him and said, what do I have? And he turned around and he just listed the whole list of symptoms back and said, that's what you have. And that's what a homeopath's going for, is what are you experiencing? What are the symptoms? So my question to you would be, why do you think patients focus so much on the diagnosis, on the label, and for some, and I know this myself, find it quite hard to talk about symptoms?
Well, first of all, Kent also kicked patients out that dared to challenge him or question him too much. So there's some good and bad to
I think he had a difficult reputation, didn't he?
He did.
So what you're saying is you don't say that to your patient. They're not going to like that. This, they come in, I've got this pain, I've got this, that.
It's a lead in to sort of saying, I don't think that's an appropriate way of dealing with people.
Certainly not in our time. Probably not even then.
When you're doing when you're in clinical practice, you're kind of doing a lot on another person's terms. You have to work out what they're willing to accept, what they're able to accept, how far they'll go. I mean, I say, even with just little things, like when it comes time to sort of go without a remedy, or sometimes I'll say, look, I honestly think that it's time to kind of move on a little.
You don't kick them out of the clinic.
No, but at the same time, you have to work to the nervous system of the mums. Mm-hmm. It's not just about you, right? So I will have patients where I think, honestly, you don't need a remedy. And so, but Remedy X got their kid from A to Z, which is the proper way of saying it, of course, not A to Z. But it's I've had remedies that will take people from A to Z, and any thought of not giving that remedy
might mean
well, the mum's just not having it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No. And here's the other thing, and this is really important to note, is that giving an appropriate remedy, you can sometimes, unless the body rebels, and I'll explain how it will rebel, you can give it sometimes for years.
Yep, definitely.
So you're not actually doing any harm by continuing. Like if the mum turns around and goes, no, absolutely not, I won't sleep if you take my son or daughter off this remedy. And I just go, okay, well, fine, we'll just keep them on it then. And they don't need to, but we'll just keep them on it because no harm's going to come. There are warning signs though if you do overdo it, right? And those warning signs are that that patient will start to develop the full sort of expression of the illness that was under control, and it'll be pretty quick, and there'll be no external reason to justify why they're going backwards so quickly.
Which is what Hahnemann said with the LMs, and he was repeating them.
Absolutely, because what you're needing to remember is that we are matching a remedy to the symptoms, to the person, like a glove to the hand, right? So it's not a surprise then if we overdo it that we're going to, so that's what a proving is, right? They start to prove the remedy. But this proving is that it's going to mimic all the same signs and symptoms that the patient originally had, because the signs and symptoms that they have, including all the modalities, are all their weak areas. And they're always going to be their weak areas. It's just that we've made them a lot stronger. But when you are pushing a remedy to the point where your body doesn't want it anymore, those weak areas are going to start displaying symptoms, and those symptoms are going to mimic the original one because that's the similarment. Right?
So you can stop at that point.
All you do is stop.
Or you can stop earlier, which is around 2 to 3 months of really good balance, holding really well. Some people are funny. They want to stop a remedy because they feel like, there's some, maybe it's like a chemical or addiction. Of course, it's neither. It's just like an energetic being taken every day, which strengthens you up. But once you get strong and you stay strong, you can withdraw it, and it's perfectly fine, and you just hold.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's a perfectly okay outcome too. But you were talking about how you have to work with your patient or the parent of the patient on their terms. You were saying you have to do that.
You do, and one of the modern terms of illness is the diagnosis, and we just have to comply with that. Because it's just the way life is. Whether you agree with it or not, whether or not you're going to go all Kentian and say, well, you're just the sum total of your signs and symptoms. Well, to most people, that's just not good enough now. Right? It doesn't mean it's not right.
It's very true. You are, in fact.
It doesn't mean it's not right, but it's just not acceptable, right? There's got to be a reason behind it, and that's what that diagnosis is. But the accuracy of that diagnosis can be, like anything else, it can be pretty up and down.
On the topic of diagnosis and the topic of repeating the remedy, someone mentioned to me in a conversation earlier today, a person that's working with us but doesn't really know a lot about homeopathy but knows enough, and was looking at some homeopathic forums just to gather some information, and mentioned that they found it really strange that nearly everything they were reading was just people asking questions like, what remedy did you give for this diagnosis? What remedy did you give for that diagnosis? And this person who has not been trained but is observant said, I don't even think that's what homeopathy is it? And I said, no, it isn't. So here's all these people on these forums asking, the wrong question. This is not the question you ask. What remedy do you give for diagnosis X? It just doesn't work that way.
You know, this sort of, it's a semi-modern sort of, I don't even know what I'm trying to say now.
Oh.
It's a semi-modern sort of term where people will ask a question, and then person X, who they're talking to, will often go, great question. Right?
Yeah, that is so common. It's a little comical sometimes.
Yeah. So, you know...
That's a great question.
So, you know, when someone says, what's a good remedy for this? I look at them and go, smile and go, bad question. Really bad question.
It is a really bad question. It is, yes.
I hope homeopaths aren't answering these things, because it only encourages it's just the wrong thought process.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of it like, it's kind of like you do want a remedy, and the remedy will have a name. So ultimately, when that remedy is found and it suits you and it helps you, it does have a name. So you might want to jump the process and say, what is the name of that remedy? But it's kind of a bit like meeting a stranger and then just looking at them and saying, tell me your name and now I'll know everything about you. Well, of course, you won't know everything about them. You only know their name. What's in between? Who are they? What do they do? What do they like? What's their life been like? What's happening around them? What are their desires? There's all of that too. There's their whole personality. And then there's the big question, how do they interact with their environment? Now, that's where you find the remedy. That's when you really know the person. So I guess we get back to the original topic, which is diagnosis and symptoms.
In some ways, there is a degree of accuracy of what is a good remedy for, because you can do that with bedside prescribing for acute diseases.
Oh, and definitely for first aid as well.
So to some degree, it's not a really, really bad question.
Oh, it is for a chronic disease.
It's just a bad question, right? Because really when someone sort of says, and we've been to seminars where people in the audience who should know better, by the way.
Because that should be class
turn around,
1.
they say, well, what's a good remedy for multiple sclerosis?
Oh, my goodness.
Or what's a good remedy for asthma? Now, the moment that you get into anything that's chronic, you need to understand the person that's got it.
Yeah.
Now you need to understand the strengths and weaknesses of the constitution. How do you get those strengths and weaknesses? They're the modalities and the sensations that are caused by the illness itself.
Which are part of the symptoms.
Which are the biggest part of the symptoms.
Yeah.
Right,
So the first thing a patient has to do is go beyond their diagnosis, but as the practitioner have to guide them there, because it is absolutely common that they don't almost understand what that means.
Yeah, because you could let's say you get a diagnosis of asthma. Now, I can just leave it at that, and I can go to respiration asthmatic and start with A out of the 1,247 remedies that there are, and I'm making that up.
There's a lot, yeah.
You know Stephen Wright, the comedian, that American comedian? He'd be about our age, in his 60s now.
Stephen Wright? No,
Yeah.
I don't think I do.
No, he's really deadpan. He's pretty funny, but he always does a thing with statistics. He says that 87.6% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
That certainly applies to you. You throw numbers around willy-nilly.
I do. And
and you leave off and add zeros, which makes a massive difference to the number.
Nah, not to me.
Even though it's only a zero. It's amazing.
No, zero doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I've noticed.
So when I say that there's, however many remedies that I said in that rubric. It's probably not true, but there is a massive number.
I'll guarantee you there's somewhere between 500 and 1,000 at the very least.
So what are you going to do? We're going to start with aconite, are we? And then just work our way to zizia.
It's going to take you a long time.
So now what we have to do is, now I've got your condition, which is just an expression of your weak area, in this case being the lungs. But what are the other weak areas? And that's where the modalities come in. So when you're talking about asthma, it's where we don't have a case. We have a case when we have asthma that is worse for wet weather, worse sitting down rather than running around. There you go. There's an interesting one. Making this up, obviously, but, now we're making our way into individuality. Mm-hmm. Drinking cold water maybe, sets off not a brain freeze in that person, but it sets off, if they drink water that's too cold, that can sort of constrict the airways. And so now we're starting to, now we had our 1,000 remedies, and how many of those have those 3 modalities in it? Well, we might have 20. But that's not even there. We don't want to stop there, because the asthma is only part of it. We need now to have a look at the totality of where your weaknesses are. And that is what we call a general, right? So if someone says, my asthma's really bad if I drink ice cold water, I can't do it. It's got to be room temperature, or I prefer warm. Anything else that is affected if you either jump into cold water or drink cold water? If I jump into cold water, can't do that, I'll get a cramp. Or what I think Americans call them Charlie horses or something.
Do they?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. I don't know why. I don't know what a Charlie horse comes from, but, where it comes from as a name. But anyway, if I jump into really cold water, I'll get a cramp. Or if I drink really cold water, I'll also can get some nausea. Or I might get a brain freeze and get a momentary headache, that might last 20 minutes. What you're seeing there is that cold water, worse for cold water, drinking cold water, is affecting 2 or 3 areas of the body simultaneously, or potentially affecting it. So that sort of affinity that you have, negative affinity for cold water, becomes a really strong general.
Yep.
And so now I'm going to make absolutely sure that whatever remedy I choose, it has to be in that rubric.
Yep.
Because that rubric is showing me a very definite constitutional weakness. If there is a single rubric, we'll go back to asthma, and it's asthma worse running around. Are you worse for doing exercise generally? No, I love it. Does it make you feel better, or do you feel drained? No. The harder I work out, the better I feel. It's just that my asthma doesn't like it. Now that is not as strong as the cold water. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean I'm going to throw it out as a remedy. It depends on as a rubric, it depends on how desperate I am for rubrics, really. Mm. Because like you said, we're going back to the original topic. Yes, thank you. The original topic is that people aren't used to looking at their condition. We've been trained into, we only know that something is wrong. And there's a label. But someone else knows what's wrong. Mm-hmm. But when you go to a homeopath, now you're going to have to elaborate on that. And they're not used to it.
They're not used to it. And it's up to the practitioner to gently train them through. And there are techniques. I think a really good one When people go, oh, I don't know, I haven't noticed, I've just got it, I've just got the asthma, and they really almost don't want to think about it. It can be a little challenging for the practitioner. Just fix it. And of course, because they're used to what really effectively is a factory model. That is, there is a diagnosis that has a certain set of conditions that gives it the label. This is the conventional medical system. And then there are some matching drugs, which also have their own parameters, their own dosing. There's very little variation in that, maybe something for your weight or your height or whatever, but generally it's a factory model. It's a very effective commercial model. And I can understand why they do it that way, and it's quite scientific in its application, except that when it comes to chronic illness, the presentations are not factory. We are not factory set and forget for chronic disease. This is an expression of our real individuality, and now it's not our personality so much, but it is the way our body behaves under stress. And so now a good question, I think I've found good answers with this, is just, look, let's just start with when you wake up in the morning. Just tell me what the experience is like for you. Just run me through it. And then they just start to talk about, oh, well, I'm always tired, or no, I'm okay, but boy, when I get into the shower, I feel X, or I start eating and X happens, or only when I eat this, X happens, and then at this particular time, I'm always very tired. Then you've already just got 4 things straight away in the pattern of their day. And it may not even be the one pathology you're talking about, but just them and how they're interacting with a day or a week or a month. The periods for ladies, all of that. You just get lovely patterns if people explain to you what their body is like, and it'll run into their emotions and their energy, and it might even go to their intellect as well, because it's all a package that links. But the body is where the real knowledge is to find the remedy. That's where you get your rubrics. And if you can get them to talk about their body and their patterns, you will have 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 rubrics that are probably enough to get you in the ballpark of a remedy. Then, of course, we cross-match with the face, the facial structure, which is that blueprint, that miasmatic survival instinct that's within all of us. 1 of 7 groups. We all belong to one group for life. Then you cross-match with the face. You might be left with 2 or 3 remedies to choose from. It's wonderful. And this is why, your reputation's so strong. 1, you're a great practitioner and you've got really good way of communicating with your patients. But the process that you use is a very accurate and dependable process, and that's HFA. I hate to plug it, but it's the basis. It is what it is. It's great.
The thing that I like about it, though, is that, and, your words are very kind, but, if it was just about me, meaning the prestige of the practitioner that I am, then it's kind of meaningless, because it just dies with me. But you can do it. We have other people on staff who can do it, and they do it just as well as me. You can do it. You do every bit as well as I do. And I don't mean it because in a way that, it's some mystical quality. What I mean to say is that when you understand the process of what needs to be done, you know exactly the steps. So even if you get lost, as an HFA practitioner, you just go, right, going back to the drawing board. And there's no shame in that. I do it all the time. When people don't get the result that I want, I wait till the end of the day after I've done all my clinic, and the ones that have not been successful, which thankfully are often not many, but I just go back to the photos. I go back to the original performer that they filled in. I look at the different consultations perhaps that we've had. But it's really those photos. If you know which group you're in, it's a matter of time.
Yeah, it really is. It's wonderful.
And so what I'm trying to get at is that it's actually not about me. It's a very egalitarian system.
That's
where,
homeopathy for you.
yeah, the moment that you know how to do it, then you just run with it from there. And also too, getting back to your original point, what makes the HFA model so important is that people have been trained out of looking at their illness, like you were saying, right? That was your original topic. They get a diagnosis, but how does it affect you? And I mean, beyond asthma, I don't like it, it makes me breathless. I know that. But these modalities, I don't know. I don't know. Well, we need to know, right? So you can retrain people, but, sometimes you can just get the broadest of concepts, providing that you've got the face right. You can get the broadest rubrics and still get that case.
I love it. I love it so much. I mean, I love the fact I was talking to a student about this the other day and explaining, look, when we do a case, because we're very busy, we've come up with this process where you send the proforma, you send in the photos. We might go backwards and forwards another 2 times, maybe 3 times, just getting the best photos, because not everyone's a natural at getting a straight photo. So we used to be a little more, amenable to poor photos. We didn't want to sort of put pressure on people, but now we've decided, no, it's a very strong diagnosis. Let's just try again and get it better. And most people are very understanding of that, so that's good. But it takes a little longer. It might take another week to get that all sorted. Anyway, then we do the first analysis from the proforma and the photos, and it's really interesting because you open some proformas. The first time you've looked at them, just look at the name and the age of the patient, and off you go, and their main complaint. And some people will have taken I think it's about 4 pages of questions, and they've filled it all out, and will literally end up with 20 pages in total, with a lot of information. So you scan through and you highlight. You can still do that it's obviously going to take longer to read 20-some pages, but you're scanning through. You know what you're looking for. You're looking for something that will be a rubric. You're looking for a part of the case that you can measure in terms of the success that you expect from it compared to when it first came to the clinic. But the thing is, you can draw a repertorization together from that, or alternatively, some people are really lenient with how much information they put into a proforma, and you might literally still only have the 4 pages of questions with 6 answers on there. And I look at it and I think, well, in the old days, that would have been a living nightmare to even begin to think what remedy. But there's always something in there. They crave salt. They have cracks beneath the heels. They have a runny nose, which is sometimes green. There's just enough in there. They have a main complaint that they've written 2 or 3 things about. You can still find 4 or 5 rubrics. Then you cross-match with the face. You still have a 50% chance of getting a good remedy first go, even though you don't have a lot of information. If they've gone somewhere in between and given you around 6 pages, and they have bothered to list some modalities because they really understood, and we do try and explain it, but not everyone gets it first go, you got such a strong chance of getting an outcome. It's extraordinary. It's really lovely.
Look, I think the HFA model, we got you, me, and we got practitioners on board here. And this is where you know that the HFA process is really, really important, because we have more than I think you were saying, more than 100 people just on the waiting list alone, something like that. Anyway, I'm probably getting my zeros mixed up there too.
No, that's about right, actually.
Okay, so you don't get that without testimonial.
Well, people are very happy with another family member or somebody they know has said.
Well, it has to be testimonial, because we don't advertise.
We don't.
Right? And so as a result of that, I mean, the point that I'm getting to is that when you're talking about a waiting list that's this long, and that'll put a lot of people off, I know, but we try and work through as quickly as what we can.
We're always coming up with strategies, and we've just got a new idea formulating where we think we can move through a little faster, which is encouraging.
To try and embrace a lot of these new people, because there's so many people that are in need. But anyway, that's not the point. What I'm trying to get at is that Pandas is kind of where we have made a very strong reputation. But oppositional defiance is a big part of Pandas. So when you go to some of these kids and you go, tell me about this, they go, I don't know. Right? What are you asking me for? It's not fair. Right? So you don't get a lot of information from them. Or they just want to be left alone. So, this whole thing where homeopathy, and you know that I don't like this psychological version where we try and profile. The
personality.
I really don't like it.
It's really, really low result based. It's just not strong. And the interpretation of it, you can't hardly teach it, let alone understand it. The chance of you getting a great remedy, you still will get them. Practitioners will still get results, of course, but the consistency's not there.
It isn't. It just isn't there. I know because I did the two. That's how I know.
Yeah.
Right? But anyway, you probably don't know if you haven't done the HFA model, right? So you don't know. You don't know how good you can be, actually, or how good your kid can be. But anyway, not the point at this stage. What I'm trying to get across is if you're going to go by a traditional model of somebody telling you their signs and symptoms, not just emotionally but physically, then they have to be aware of them and they also have to be compliant. Well, there's two problems when you're coming to Pandas. Right there.
No awareness and no compliance.
There's two problems, because all they want to do is stay on their game and be left alone and not talk to you until they're hungry. Right? So we've got a real big problem now. If information gathering is our basis, the thing that is so great about the HFA model is the objective facial analysis.
Yeah.
To be able to put you into a category that narrows down 6/7 of the remedy, all the remedies in the material in the repertory. Right? It in one foul swoop gets rid of 6/7 of them if you get that right.
Yeah, good
and
photos.
That's why we push it so hard.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, and I couldn't go back. And interestingly enough, I don't think I've ever seen a student say that either. They're very enthusiastic. So I do remind anyone who's sort of teetering, thinking, should I do this? Please do it. Like, even if you can just help a few people to start with, your confidence will pick up. There are no limits to what you can achieve for those close to you and others with beautiful homeopathy. But it's got to be good, and you've got to have a process to follow. You've got to feel confident in your choices and your case management.
Yeah, and then, like you were saying, again, back to the diagnosis, it's not that the diagnosis is irrelevant. It's clearly relevant because it is showing a weak area of your body.
Yeah.
Right? So disease doesn't manifest where you're the strongest. It, like everything else, whether it's just an emotional stress or it's a biological stress, it's all the first place to crumble is always the weakest link.
Yeah.
And so whatever your diagnosis is, or wherever your diagnosis is, it's not irrelevant. So I'm not trying to pretend that, I'm not trying to say to you that if you get diagnosed with some liver problem or some asthmatic problem, or that we just discard it, because that's not what we're interested in. What I am saying is, yes, we are interested in that. But in order to understand exactly how it works, we need to refine that. We need to know exactly how it's weak, and we need to know exactly what your body is doing to try and either A, repair, or B, compensate. And that's where the modalities come in. That's the body trying to compensate and readdress considering that weakness.
Great. I think you've done a great job in explaining it. And I reckon next time I'm going to make a note, because I mentioned about the forums and some of the questions linked to the diagnosis and the remedy, which is an erroneous question, as you pointed out. But there was another comment in there that was mentioned about repeating remedies. I reckon we should go back to that topic next time. It's such an important topic and completely misunderstood.
Oh, it's absolutely misunderstood. And look, you know, I don't go on Facebook much. As you know, one of my daughters is travelling, and so I go onto Facebook to see if she posts anything about the family. But that's about the only time I really go on it.
You don't have time for social media. Not really.
I don't have patience for social media.
Oh, yeah, you have patience in the clinic, but not.
Yeah, not that sort of patience. Yeah. But it's. I got distracted then. Where am I going? Oh,
repeating remedies.
You still see.
Let's talk about that next time.
When I go on there, they give you some sort of quote as to why you should never repeat.
I know.
Now, I won't go into it too much. We'll go into it next time.
I think so.
But let's finish off. That's a really bad question.
That's a really bad question. I've got you. Let's come up with good questions. Okay then, thanks.
Righto. See you all.
Thanks for listening to Soul and Survival. If you are interested in more information, books, courses, consultations, learning more about facial analysis or life themes, please visit our college site, Victorian College of Classical Homeopathy, vcch.org.